Hi friends, welcome on board. This time I come back with another power supply design, and here is the board. Let me go through a brief introduction. Here is the AC input, universal, in the range of 85 to 240 volts, and here is the DC output, 5 volts and 2 amps maximum continuous. I was receiving some comments why I always use Chinese controllers for the power supply. So there we go. This time a Western type controller, a Viper 22A chip, this one. I used an RM8 core for the transformer. These type of transformers are better in terms of efficiency and lower radiated emission, although the winding of this transformer might look a bit tricky. At the output, instead of a Schottky diode, I used this single package synchronous rectifier, much more efficient than a Schottky diode. I designed the schematic and PCB for this board using Altium Develop. Yes, Altium Develop, not Altium Designer. So if you want to investigate about Altium Develop, just follow this link in my YouTube video description and sign up on the Altium website. It allows you to test the Altium Develop with a legal license. That sign up allows you to download the project files also, then follow this link and download the project files. Before I go to the next step, let me remind you that you should solder the auxiliary winding wires like this on the board. So you should not solder the auxiliary winding wires on the bobbin. I explained how you should wind the transformer, but it's better that I show you this trick or this point right now because it's important. Anyway, let's go to the next step. I explained the schematic and PCB. Alright, here's the Altium Develop software. This is the schematic document, and this one is the PCB layout. I explain each one separately, but you might ask, what's the benefit of this Altium Develop? What's the catch? Altium Develop offers many features, but one stands out. It makes teamwork easy and helps you perform your best, especially on complex PCB projects. Imagine you are in a team where one person works on the power supply, another designs the digital circuits, and someone else handles the RF parts, such as Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Another team member creates the bill of materials and buys the components. If you rely on traditional methods, things will get messy. It leads to lots of misunderstandings, errors, and frustration. This will delay your project, stress the team members, and affect the company's income and reputation. You will see the difference, so I won't explain more. Follow this link in the YouTube video description and test it with your 1 month free legal license. Now let me explain the schematic, starting from the upper edge, the AC input section. This is the fuse, which provides protection, of course. Next, we have a MOV or varistor that protects the circuit against high voltage transients. C1 is a 100 nanofarad X2 rated capacitor used for noise reduction. R1 is an NTC resistor that limits the inrush current during startup. T1 is a common mode choke, very important for noise suppression and EMC compliance. Then we have a bridge rectifier for AC to DC conversion, and finally C2 is the main capacitor used for ripple reduction. Let me come down and show you this part. The high voltage DC line continues here. One side is connected directly to the transformer's primary winding. The primary is switched by this Viper 22 chip. These three components form an RCD snubber network, which protects the MOSFET from high voltage transients and helps dampen sharp switching noises caused by the primary leakage inductance. In this design, the switching MOSFET is integrated. directly inside the controller. The auxiliary winding provides power to the controller after startup. So this rectification and filtering section is essential. Make sure to use low ESR capacitor for C9. The Zener diode ensures that the supply voltage doesn't exceed 24 volts. Let's move on for the optocoupler. The optocoupler provides a galvanically isolated feedback path, allowing the controller to sense and regulate the output voltage. R12 is a trimmer potentiometer used to fine-tune and compensate for any transformer winding tolerances and variations. This is a Y capacitor, which is mandatory for noise reduction and EMC compliance. Let's go to the output. At the output stage, I have used a synchronous rectifier. It's very efficient and comes in a compact package. This RC snubber protects the rectifier and suppresses high-frequency spikes. Finally, we have a standard CLC filter, a dummy load for stability, and an LED indicator to show that the power supply is up and running. Now let's take a look at the PCB. Alright, let me zoom in on the PCB to fit the entire screen. I have followed several PCB design techniques here and like to share them with you. Aside from proper component placement in the power supply, one of the most important techniques is the copper plane between the controller's switching pin and the transformer's primary winding. This copper area. This plane should be short and wide to handle current effectively and minimize radiated emissions. Since this copper area carries fast switching currents that can easily act as an antenna, a strong source of electromagnetic noise. So next, the snubber network should be placed as close as possible to the transformer. I always recommend using SMD components for the snubber, at least for the resistor, to reduce parasitics and improve performance. For the controller, the decoupling capacitors are placed as close as possible to the controller VCC pin. So here. And the feedback path capacitor is positioned right next to the controller feedback pin. This capacitor. The isolation gaps or creepage areas are to follow IPC standards, but the ones around the controller and transformer pins are especially critical. At the output stage, the loop formed by the rectifier and the first capacitor should be kept as small as possible. That's why the capacitor's ground pin has a double copper low impedance connection to the transformer's ground pin. The output capacitors are protected from overheating and premature aging using thermal reliefs on the positive pins. It reduces heat transfer from the nearby inductor to the capacitors. Finally, I minimize the length and impedance of the ground path by applying proper grounding techniques and via stitching. That's why the bottom layers at the input and output are solid ground planes. So these are the ground planes, the bottom layer. As you see, both of them are solid. So that's it. Let's go to the next step. Alright, here you can find more details about the transformer and how you should wind it properly. The ferrite core used here is an RM8 type, and the bobbin is a 6+6 type, meaning it has 6 pins on each side. I think picture is pretty clear. In the right image, you can clearly see the pinout and winding pattern. An orange pin means the bobbin pin is occupied, and the magnet wire should be soldered directly to the bobbin. If the bobbin pin is shown in white, it means that pin is not used. Simple. The primary winding consists of 52 turns of 0.25 mm magnet wire. Don't forget 2 or 3 turns of transformer tape on the primary. That's important. The auxiliary winding wires are left open and soldered directly to the PCB. That's why they are drawn this way. For the secondary winding, use 3 turns of 10 strands of 0.3 mm magnet wire twisted together. But don't worry, even with 10 strands, the bundle isn't too thick or stiff. Twisting them together actually make the winding process smoother and easier. If you have any question, just let me know in the comment section. Alright, welcome to the test bench. I prepared this test setup to test this power supply board. This variable AC transformer prepares the input voltages from 85 to 240 volts, and this DC load applies the maximum output voltage to the power supply, which is 2 amps, and we will examine if the output voltage remains stable within the input voltage range. So at the moment, the input voltage is minimum 85. You can see the output voltage. Now I increase the input voltage to 240, and we will see how stable this power supply is. And there we go. No problem whatsoever. Pretty stable within the input voltage range and the maximum output current, which is 2 amp. So this is a pass. Let's go to the next test. Alright, this setup prepares the worst case scenario for the input circuit and the RCD snubber, because the input voltage is maximum 240 volts and the output current is also maximum, which is 2 amps. I use this MIXIC high voltage differential probe to sense the voltage, and these 2 probes are directly connected to the primary of the transformer, and here is the results. The measurement says the maximum peak-to-peak voltage is around 460 volts, which is way below than the maximum drain source voltage of the MOSFET. So this is a pass for the snubber, but let's check the waveform on this edge of the pulse, which is the ringing of the snubber. So I should say this is a pretty clean pulse because we don't see any sharp edges and spikes on this edge. So this is a clear pass for the snubber. It shows first the leakage inductance of the transformer is low, and also the snubber components have been calculated correctly. This power supply is a clear winner. Now the screen is pretty sharp, isn't it? So here is the peak-to-peak voltage, 460 or so, and here's the waveform. So that's it for this project. I hope you like it. Don't forget to share and subscribe. We will do something else in the next video.